Hello and welcome to Make Australian Football Fun Society. We are here, and if ever there was a week that the Make Australian Football Fun Society had to work hard to spin this week as fun, it's this week, all right? So if you're in the comments, we're going to need your help. We're going to need your funnest spin on this week. We're going to need you to tell us what made Australian football fun for you this week, because bit of a slim pickings. Obviously last week we finished the show talking about the OlyRues and how fun the OlyRues can, our favourite memories of the OlyRues, and no wins, no goals, out already. Was hopefully this week we're going to talk about as we go into the knockout stage, but no, not so much. Or maybe you want to talk about the Mariners' epic adventure to what was it? Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan,
Kyrgyzstan, one of the stans.
One of the stunts, a tour of the stunts, and that was a pretty amazing thing. It was delayed, typical MAFFS stuff, and then their star player Angel Torres has been arrested, so probably won't be praising him anymore. And pretty shit news there. But look, there's always something. There was the wooden spoon match between Perth Glory and Western United, which was an epic 4-3 and a lot of fun. Watching that game, you did get a sense why these two teams are on the bottom of the table, but in a fun way, because defending, poor, playing out from the back, poor. But that's a interesting combination of flavors. Josh Sidelines Parrish is with us once again. Josh, welcome back to the show. How are you, man?
I think it's Josh sidelined Parrish after the last few weeks of me not turning up. But
guys,
it's great to be back. It's great to be back.
I think do we need a MAFFS People's campaign? Do we need to get the 15 million listeners to just constantly at the Paramount Plus coverage with just bring back sidelines? Don't even say Josh Parrish in case it goes.
I meant sideline from this show, not from the broadcast.
Oh, okay, all right.
To clarify.
Maybe you need to at MAFFS and say bring back sidelines.
Look, there's been a disappointing lack of clamour for my return on the socials. So, did you want me? Maybe not. Am I back? Okay. Yes.
So, Joe, obviously we have sideline reporters, but yes. Me and you, we're television producers. We're big thinkers. We're always coming up with ideas.
Ideas, man.
Sideline reporter. That's one thing. Great. That covers the sideline. What about the goal lines? All right. Why isn't there a goal line reporter? We just saw El Clasico this week. Was it in? Was it out? That was a huge moment. They didn't have goal line technology here in Spain because, who knows what they're actually.
Who knows why?
Yeah. But we've had sideline reporter. Great. But, I want to cover the game from all angles. Sideline reporter, goal line reporter, corner reporter. What do you think? Do you love the idea? What other reporters would you like to see?
It's a great idea. And one of the things I love to see most, so when the play is kind of going towards, say, where Sidelines Parrish is positioned, and then the commentator calls for Sidelines for a comment, and instead of going to the play, we go straight to Josh, and he's got a nugget of information. Imagine that from a goal kick, Paul Izzo didn't do much on the weekend. Imagine that. The shot goes over the crossbar, and there's Josh in the corner, just next to Izzo, just over his right shoulder. I love it. It's a great idea.
Yeah, so this is what we need you to do. You need to write in the comments. Obviously, tell us what made Australian football fun for you this week. Tell us what other reporters do you want to see, within a football match. I mean, maybe there's someone outside the stadium, because don't you think it's funny, for example, like Manchester United this week, a kind of amazing 3-3 draw with Coventry City in the FA Cup semi-final and then a penalty shootout. But when Coventry scored what people thought was the last-minute winner, 4-3, apparently there was all these Manchester United fans who left the ground, walking outside. And then what happened was they found out that it had been ruled out and it was going to penalty shootout. So they're desperately trying to get in. We need an outside reporter. And what I think is great about this is that there'll be many more jobs for reporters. And maybe Joe, me and you could. I mean, Josh owns Sidelines. That's why they call him Josh Sidelines Parrish.
That's his
maybe me and you can be, the parking the parking correspondent. Go, Nestor Aaron Kunda has gone between the lines this time. Good for him. That's really exciting. Back to you guys in the booth.
I feel like with the picture I get of the outside of stadium reporters, those security cards, and their job is to sit on the turf at the stadium, but look at the crowd. That's kind of us outside the stadium, looking away from the stadium where the action actually isn't. That's where we'll be stationed.
That's right. And we've already looked, the ideas are coming in thick and fast. I love it. Blake Hampton, big ideas, man. A-League food truck reporter, candidate Parrish. What do you reckon, Josh? Would you like the food truck beat?
I would take that beat in a heartbeat.
Ooh, nice.
The Brazilian
That's what I call
barbecue
it,
at Western
sidelines.
United
the Brazilian
alone deserves a dedicated reportage, I would say.
Yeah, a kind of an Anthony Bourdain style.
You know what I
BBBQ.
would like to see, Stoll? I would like to see tunnel reporter, because there's a lot that goes on in tunnels that we don't see.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, we've had Isuzu
Pizzagate.
Ute tunnel cam or whatever it is.
Okay.
I think we should have tunnel reporter because we want to know what kind of barbs are being thrown as you walk off at halftime or full time. We want to know if Ross Aloisi has punched a hole in a wall. We want to know, you know, there was a lot of tunnel action in the NPL this weekend over at Dandenong Thunder. We heard after a certain leg breaker challenge went in on
that was
Christian
wild.
Trudzinski. So I want to know every little bit of goss that's going on as the two sides feel like they're out of the glare of the cameras, but maybe, just maybe. And this is something that I found out during my first gig, that the job is mainly about eavesdropping. Sometimes it's about talking to people and gathering intel, but mostly it's about just sort of Horton here's a who style, you know, hand behind, cupped behind the ear, seeing what you can
sticky beak,
what you can gather, and sticky beak. You're sort of just lurking in the background. So maybe a tunnel reporter could be the next innovation.
The other one, and look, this is quite meta, but the other one that I'd love to see is commentator reporter. So a reporter standing 5 meters away from the commentators, right? And the reporter is looking at the commentators and discussing how they're getting on with the game, the you know, what if they're doing a good job, if they're struggling, if they've made some mispronunciations, the chemistry between kind of the main commentator and the co-commentator. You know, for example, the classic one is when we all remember when Speedy and Bozza back in the day at Fox Sports had the argument over, was it a red card, was it not a red card? I mean, that's when you wanted a commentator reporter to tell you what's going on. When the mics are down, what is happening between it? That's what you'd love to see. So, look, we're revolutionizing.
Well, we needed a commentator reporter back when Jason Dunstall threw a tray of fried rice at Stephen Quartermain.
Well, you know, the best thing about these AFL stories is I've never heard them.
There's a lot
of context.
There's a lot of information there that Nick Stoll would have no idea what you were just
look up Ricegate. I know it's a sharing information. I apologize, but it's worth your while.
Yeah, okay. Look, let us know who you would want to throw some rice at. That could always think. But look, guys, we should get into the topic this week, and we'll see what kind of, it's a bit of a choose your own adventure MAFFS this week. So we'll see where we go on this thing. But what made Australian football fun for you this week? I'll start with you, Josh Parrish, because you haven't been on for a while.
Well, it seems like a week is a long time in politics. It's a longer time in Australian football, but back last week, I think it's between shows, so I feel like it's fair game. Cassini Yengi was promoted with Portsmouth. They've been in league. They haven't been in the championship since 2012. They dropped all the way down to League 2. They've been stuck in League 1 for 7 years, and it's 13 goals in all comps from Cassini Yengi that's helped get them back to the promised land of the championship for this huge club, Portsmouth. And they bloody love him. He was getting sort of crowd surfing with holding up an inflatable kangaroo on the pitch during the pitch invasion. And then he was leading the chanting out on the streets of the south of England. I've got a little clip here to show you guys.
Yeah, so I love that.
How good. Standing on top of a car, leading the chants, and he's got a dedicated chant, 7 years in League 1, thought we'd never leave, so Cassini Yengi takes on the league. I was going to ask,
we needed a subtitle reporter, so I'm glad you clarified. I had no idea what they were saying apart from Yengi.
It took me a few listens, to be honest. We needed some bright yellow SBS subtitle.
They were the best back in the day. Now, it's good. And I think as well, Portsmouth is like a fun club. We talk about MAFFS. You think about Portsmouth, the defining memories of Portsmouth is that team that kind of Harry Redknapp had back at the time, which, they were Portsmouth said they were kind of like just above relegation in the Premier League, but they had players like Kanu and Benjani and just like real kind of like high level players.
Who could forget Nico Cranchard?
Oh, Nico
Terrific
Cranchard,
little player.
yeah.
Croatian beast.
That was
Peter Crouch, Jermaine Defoe.
Yeah, I mean that's like a bit of a gun team at one stage, and at Fradham Park, that small thing. And you're right, like they have also like kind of a really good fan base. And I remember even this iconic fan they used to always show in the crowd. He was shirtless. He kind of looked like a guy who had been in like a successful rock band in the 70s, but it was now like the 2000s, and like he'd seen some stuff. But yeah, it was incredible. So good to have Portsmouth back. They have a bit of a tradition with Australian players. I know Foz played
Alex
there.
Alex Robertson's there as well.
Yeah,
John Aloisi
his season was shortened by injury, but he was really, really good for them in the first half of the season, apparently.
Yeah. So no,
I say apparently because I have not watched a single Portsmouth game, but I've caught a couple of highlights and I've seen a few tweets.
HBA, highlights-based analysis. Joe, what made Australian football fun for you this week?
Look, I've picked out the Perth versus Western United game.
Yes.
I think, what did you call it earlier? The spoon cup. The utensil derby.
The utensil derby. Do you know?
And I'm sure.
I did have a question. Why wooden spoon? Is that like an AFL thing, or is that because in football you just get relegated when you finish last? So they're not going to be like, you got relegated. Here's a wooden spoon. Good luck fighting them off in the second division.
It derives from the Cambridge University custom of presenting a spoon to the person who gets the lowest third in MAFFS tripos.
Oh.
Yes.
Maths.
Yeah. Well,
so it comes from sort of the Oxbridge school of japery.
Wow, hilarious.
Let us know what you think of that analysis of the wooden spoon. If you've got any other utensils you'd like analysed,
no, but
let us
like,
know in the comments.
Posh universities have some dull things that are like, the wooden spoon. But
sorry, I asked.
No. One thing I say is really funny about the wooden spoon is 1 year, and I don't know what the NRL equivalent of the Sharon rule is, but I'm about to break it. 1 year, the Brisbane Broncos finished last, which I think is quite rare for them. And their fans turned up like on Monday at the training ground and threw like 10,000 wooden spoons onto the training ground, which I did quite like. And, good deal if you sell wooden spoons. So, maybe Perth Glory fans, there you go. You have a choice.
I'm going to add to the Cambridge story, by the way.
Please.
It's probably not. So apparently, you can get a first, a second, or a third, which is kind of your ranking. And apparently, the first.
I didn't go to Oxford, mate. I'm well educated guy.
The first were known as Wranglers, said to be born with golden spoons in their mouths. Those who came up with a second class degree were senior optimes and had silver spoons in their mouths, and those with thirds were junior optimes and were born with lead spoons. The last junior optime was called the wooden spoon. To be honest, I'd rather have a lead spoon than a wooden spoon than a lead spoon. Surely, there's less risk of poisoning. But there you go.
Yeah, but we let these people run the world, and look where we are. So just saying. All those prime ministers.
There's a lot of lead spooners running the world these days, Nick. I think.
Joe, tell us about Western United 4, Perth 3.
We'll come back to spoon chat. But what I liked about the utensil derby, please do. What I liked about the utensil derby was, I don't know whether it was something had changed on the audio mic, or if the mics were positioned differently around the grounds. But there's 7 goals in this game. And every time the ball hit the back of the net, or there was a goal mouth scramble, or there was a celebration, I'm going to play a little bit of audio. This is the crisp noise that I was hearing.
Inviting the challenge and Taggart. Inviting the challenge.
We'll hear it again one more time. Did you hear that? That little smack. Crisp. Beautiful. And what it reminded me of, when I was a bit younger, we had a basketball hoop in the backyard. And not to brag. And then one Christmas, I remember my parents were like, let's get him a chain net. Did you guys ever have a chain net, or a friend with a chain net?
Yeah.
You were instantly 10 times cooler. And when I occasionally got the ball in, that noise was unbelievable. So my question to you, is it time the A-League brings in the chain goal nets? Your thoughts?
This is one of the all-time great ideas. I think.
What do you think? Imagine the rattle. Imagine the rain dripping off the steel. It's an unbelievable thought.
Yeah, imagine, like every now and again a player falls back into the net or something. Imagine you've fallen into the chains, just, like, cutting yourself up and everything. Look,
You
I think
wouldn't
it makes our league look a lot tougher and a lot
It looks
harder.
cooler. Yeah,
Looks like
prison
kind of
rules. Imagine,
Unfortunately, in order for Costa Barbarouses to fix the net, he would now need to be a welder.
welders.
a welder.
Roll of
welder
masking tape.
reporter,
I don't
that'd
think
be
would do
another
the
role.
job this time.
I think it's a great idea, Joe. I do like it.
Thank you.
Gerardo says, "What could go wrong?" And that's the kind of attitude I like. Is let's not answer that question. Let's just put it out there and say, "Look, we asked the question."
Yeah.
And look, if someone can really think of something that could go wrong, I think that's only going to go right, and it's going to help our goal line reporter that we've also created. Blake Hampton also says, "Let's see if Costas Barbarouses can fix a chain net," but it does raise the question, right? And this is one of my things that I've always thought is sound is an underrated part of sport and sport enjoyment. So as you say, Joe, the sound of, and I've been watching quite a bit of NBA lately, the sound of when the ball swishes through the net and you just get that nice clean thing. Or, another one, I'm not a big golf guy, but when the ball just rolls into the cup, and you get that little echo thing, one of the great sounds. It's
great sound.
Ping pong, a great rally in ping pong is a very enjoyable sound as well, except, when they've got ping pong at your office and someone's been playing for 4 hours and you really need to work on something and all you hear is, but generally when that's the focus of the day. So I don't know, an amazingly sweetly struck football hitting the crossbar and going in.
Yeah.
One of the great sounds. And I feel like we need to investigate more satisfying sounds. It's an underrated part. Maybe at a certain point.
Oh, the chain.
The chain. The chain's
the answer. The chain's the answer. I'm telling you.
The chain net might be it, but I don't know. Maybe we need more. Maybe if
Do
you
we need
think of any more sounds.
ASMR? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying. Everyone talks about picture quality when they talk about broadcasts and stuff like this, and what does it look like? What does it sound like? Some people have bad vision. All right, let's talk about satisfying noises, because it is basketball when you just hearing that swish all the time. It just does make you feel like, yeah, this is good. This is satisfying. Yeah, I want more of this. So let us know, what sounds do we need in the A-League? I always find it funny in the A-League when you can just hear a coach just yelling absolute nonsense.
Well, the thing about the microphones at this game was who scored there for Ollie Laval scored a goal, and you could hear him absolutely going nuts. Hooting and hollering he was doing after, and you could hear it clearly. It was amazing.
I was editing some highlights for that game, and I had to edit out him swearing, which was pretty funny. It was so clear what he said, but
it was so clear.
Was it as bad as Mitch Nichols to Tando Valafi back in the day?
So it is funny. Laval, we should talk about, scored his first goal in the A-League. There was also another player for Western United who scored his first goal as well. So, great day for Western United. One thing I will say, Tomoki Imai, last week we saw him in the club shop, and he was selling
merch, wasn't he? In the shed.
So based on the way he played out from the back and Taggart scored, I got to say, I think he needs to go back there, because I'm thinking, I'm glad he's chosen a second career path, because he just looks a lot more happier and comfortable in this situation.
He does look happy, doesn't he?
No one's pressing him. Kolakovsky's not trying to rip the ball off him. Taggart's not waiting there to pounce. It's almost like, we don't know. Maybe if Kolakovsky and Taggart turned up, they'd rob the merch store and all the profits would be gone at the end of the day. But talking about looked a bit rough playing out, but it was okay because Perth looked a lot rougher. And it's a bit of a sad end for Perth in terms of, because we did crown them at one stage the MAFFS kind of team of the year, and maybe it's almost symbolic that the MAFFS team finishes last. But they did score an incredible amount of goals, and this game kind of summed them up. They can score. Taggart is top goal scorer, I think. By 2, he set the record for most goals from a Perth Glory play, which is pretty impressive for a team coming last. So Taggart, I think, has been a real bright spot for him, and there is little signs of glory there with Taggart and Kolakovsky, but I mean, they need to fix up that defense and midfield and everything except the strikers.
They need to fix everything except Taggart, is what you're saying. Easy rebuild.
Starting point. That's a starting point. The new owners. We've seen them, but maybe they need to fix the nets as well. But it's It is interesting. Torres has asked Nick, what was it like being at the UWCL semi-final, the Women's Champions League semi-final? Yes, I went. So this was my week here in Barcelona. Happy St. George's Day to anyone who celebrates. Day where rose and books are exchanged by loved ones. Yeah, there's a lot of roses in the streets. Very nice. Very, very, very romantic.
Well, did you give or did you receive a rose or a piece of literature?
No, so here's the best thing about it. Right?
Oh, okay, I'm glad I asked.
My girlfriend is away in Sevilla at the moment with her parents, right? And so not only did I not have to get anything yet, I will have to get it when she comes back, but I'll get it discounted because the roses will be on special, the books will be on the special. It's worked out perfectly for me. Just the stars once again aligned. But this is my week watching football in Barcelona. I went to Barca PSG. I was working on that game for Stan Sport. And of course, Barca absolutely stuffed it up. They're up 4-2. Everyone's getting excited. We're going to the semis. Probably we're going to the final. This is going to be amazing. Boom, Araujo, red card. Then PSG just destroyed it. Okay, fine. So then we're like, all right, cool. We're going to go to the Women's Champions League semi-final because Barcelona women's smash everyone. They are the best team in the world. This is going to be an easy win. We'll just go a great 1:30 game. Weather's perfect. Let's smash Chelsea. Here we go. Boom, 1-0 loss to Chelsea. Sam Kerr wasn't even there. So, it wasn't even part of me that liked Chelsea. At least if Sam Kerr had scored, okay, let's call it. Sam Kerr scored. So that was rough.
Is there Ewing theory potential there, given Kerr's previously lost to Barcelona at that stage?
I don't know. Like, honestly, I feel like Sam Kerr, they were just playing on the counter attack, and she probably would have destroyed Barca. So it was even a little bit worse there. So, but second leg, maybe we'll see. And then you thought, okay, well, El Clasico. Let's see if Barca can revive these two bitter losses in massive Champions League games with the game against their biggest rival way in the Bernabeu. And started well, and then stuffed it up. Bellingham 3-2 in the last minute. So rough week for Barca. But it wasn't. Look, what made Australian football fun for me this week? I think I was going to do the wooden spoon battle of the bottom. But Joe, sorry. You came up with a great idea of the chain. But one thing I will say was it was a very dramatic game, Newcastle Wellington, and I did like it because Newcastle kind of playing for pride at this point, Wellington playing for the season, and. It was a kind of an epic game. There was a last-minute penalty Rufer missed.
Yeah. And there's one thing you don't want your roofer doing, it's damaging the woodwork, that's for sure.
That's a shocker. That is an absolute shock. It's going to get you beat it off the street.
Whoops.
No, but it was, this sometimes is a little bit this is where you kind of wish Wellington was almost a team that had more fans in Australia, at least, because that felt like a miss that could, unfortunately, for Alex Roof, cost them the season. That was to give them the win, to put them ahead. Now Central Coast Mariners have the potential advantage. It was epic. And also Alex Paulson, we talked to, we wanted to build him statues earlier in the season. He did make a bit of an error on their goal there. So, I think one of the great things that we've had about this A-League season is we've had an epic title race with Wellington Central Coast Mariners, and it looks like it's going to go down to the final day of the season, which is super exciting. We've also the top 6 battle is really good. It looks like maybe Melbourne City could maybe sneak in. We'll see how that's going to go. And of course, with the wooden spoon battle, which it's almost like a pre-relegation battle. It just sets it up. But if relegation had been a thing this season, it would have been epic. So there's some things definitely on the field to focus on and enjoy.
You mentioned Paulson's own goal there, Stoll. Yeah. We've talked a lot about Paulson getting multiple statues this season. Unfortunately, after that own goal, protesters have actually ripped down one of the statues and thrown it in the Wellington Harbour. So
with the e-bikes.
Yeah, we've got to see if they're going to fish it out in time for potential grand final.
Does the statue have kind of a bit of a hole in it? Is there a hole under his arm in the statue? But to be fair,
they ran out of bronze.
What are they made of? But seriously, to Paulson, that was a pretty bad error for him, but he did have a very strong save. I think it was Bayless again towards the end of the first half. That was an amazing save. So maybe, you lose a statue, you gain a statue.
Maybe in order to kind of stop people having to rip down a statue and throw it in the river, put the statue in the river, right? And then have the statue kind of be able to kind of go up and down. So when, Paulson's killing it, what a week he's had, the statue
Like
goes
a phoenix.
high. Rises like the phoenix, right? It just elevates right, over the river. And then when he's struggling a bit, it just goes down a little bit. He's had a real shocker, just completely underwater. So I don't know, maybe there's something there. I don't know if that would disrupt the marine life, but I think it would add to it. It'd be a huge tourist attraction. I think Wellington, if you're looking to get visitors to the city, I know Queenstown is very famous in New Zealand, but Wellington, maybe it's the statue that it needs. Yes, Josh.
I was going to say, do you know the curse of the Colonel, the Hanshin Tigers of Japan?
I do not. I thought the curse of the
because you got to be careful when you're throwing statues in rivers.
KFC.
You got to be careful if you throw a statue in a river, because the Hanshin Tigers of Japan, they're a baseball team. They had a 38-year title drought, and the urban legend was that there was a curse on the team called the Curse of the Colonel, because there was a novelty statue of Colonel Sanders outside of KFC in Japan that was thrown into the river in a fit of pique amid the wild celebrations as they won the 1985 title. And they actually went and fished it out of the river in 2009 to try and repair the curse, but they didn't another time until 2023. And apparently it was a bit of a tradition for fans to jump in the water, which is not clean, and you get very sick if you drink any of it. But they asked fans to not jump in the river after they won the title, and they also held a burial ceremony for the statue recently because they couldn't maintain its condition after it had been fished out of the river. So they gave it a proper burial, and they're hoping that they haven't reignited the curse.
Do you think we need, in a way, I was thinking, because I love a curse story, right? Like Benfica have the Bela Gutmann curse, which basically he was a coach back in the 60s. He was very successful. He got fired. He said, you'll never win another European title ever again. And they haven't since. They've been so dominant domestically, but they've never won. And this is the question that Blake has asked is, can we attribute all A-League misfortunes to a curse? Well, I was going to say, is there any club that's cursed that we think in the A-League? Is there any? But there's probably two, like just
too many.
Too many.
Are they all cursed?
Like a little bit. Like maybe did the NSL clubs put a curse on the A-League clubs or something? But the NSL clubs had their own issues as well, so maybe they're cursed. But like the classic one in Australian football is the John Safran curse that he lifted. Basically, what happened was for the qualifying for the 1974 World Cup, we played a game in Africa, I believe, against I can't remember who. But basically, supposedly, some of the Socceroos at the time visited a witch doctor before the game. Got the witch doctor to put Mozambique, right? So we got them to put a curse on the Mozambique team. It seemed to work because we won the game. I don't know how fortuitous the circumstances were of that win, but because apparently we didn't pay the witch doctor properly, then the curse was put on us, and then we didn't qualify for any World Cups for 32 years. John Safran found out about this curse through Johnny Warren, part of a TV program, went to Africa and had the curse lifted, and we haven't missed a World Cup since. Right. So,
do you want to go into how he lifted the curse, Stoll?
It was kind of gross, right?
Yeah, it was really gross. They sacrificed a chicken. John Safran and Johnny Warren smothered themselves in chicken blood, and then we qualified for the World Cup the next year.
Wow, sacrificing
any relation to the KFC curse?
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know if that chicken subsequently became Kentucky Fried.
Hey, go get your chickens. All right, the chickens have come home to roost, and we're gonna have to sacrifice
popcorn
a few.
Chicken. Yeah.
All right, let's go through the teams. Perth, you need to sacrifice a lot. All right, you guys have had some shocking seasons, right? Back in the day when I first started watching football, the Perth Glory NSL years, they were amazing. Now they're struggling. Adelaide United.
I think you need to sacrifice a chicken treat if you're Perth Glory.
It's good. It's good. So I don't know. Let us know in the comments who do you think needs to start. What do you think the curse is? First of all, the more specific the curse, the better.
Yeah.
What needs to be done? What needs to be done to lift the curse? But I don't know. It did seem like there was a bit of a curse on the OlyRues this week. Should we get into that at all? I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched any of the games. This is all HBA, highlights-based analysis. You've got results-based analysis, RBA, highlights-based analysis, and
then there's VBA, which is just vibes-based analysis, which is mostly what this show indulges in.
That's what that's where we do our best work.
Look, on all three, I'd say the OlyRues have failed because the vibes aren't good.
Yeah, no.
The vibes aren't good as soon as this Irangunda blunder happened. The highlights, I watched them, not great. And the results, terrible. So 3 from 3.
There were no highlights, Stoll. There were no highlights to watch.
No. Just lights.
Just
low lights.
Imagine they put that up on YouTube. Lights, Australia versus Indonesia.
And then show a picture of Tarneit Stadium on a dark night.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, I mean, it's what also is kind of, massively annoys me. I don't know about you guys. Is when, and this has happened, for the last 20 years. As soon as Australian youth teams, especially, have bad results at tournaments, bad performances, however you want to phrase it, the weird solutions that people come up with, there's no curses that anyone wants lifted. The thing that you kind of have this bingo of and Josh, you pointed out this week, the first one that always comes up, and it seems to come up from a certain section of the Australian football population, is cattle. It's the agriculture experts come out, the livestock experts come out, and there's this real, we don't have the cattle. It's definitely not the coach's fault. It's definitely not anyone in charge's fault. Just simply, we've got a bunch of chickens that we need to sacrifice, and we don't have prime Kobe beef. And there was a bit of that this week. There's also a little bit of, kids these days, they play with their iPads, and that's why we don't produce any footballers. You get that one. What other ones?
Qatari kids famously don't have iPads.
Yeah, well, the other thing as well is Asia's improving. Asia's improving. Asia's getting better. You're like, yeah, of course. Everyone, you're meant to get better. You're not meant to just stay where you were for 20 years. The whole idea, the whole reason we're paying coaches and technical directors and people in charge is to improve, and it doesn't seem like we're really doing that. Anyway. So I don't know, Josh. What did you make of it all this week?
Well, I think upon reflection, I'm not sure that Tony Vidmar is emotionally ready for the rigors of high-quality international football. And I just feel like, I want to do the right thing by him. It's not. We could make a selfish decision and say, Tony Vidmar, you need to continue to coach the OlyRues because, we need you. You're a legend of the game. But we can't be selfish here. We need to think about what's best for his future. And maybe what's best for his future is to move him out of the limelight, to take a bit of pressure off him, to leave him out of our next squad and bring somebody else in, someone more experienced, someone, with a bit more emotional maturity to take us through the next phase. Because, obviously I'm taking the piss, but
that was good. It was good piss taken.
Look, it was a disaster. It was just such a disaster. We didn't score a single goal. Show some ambition, it was all so predictable and it was so stale. And it's hard, it's hard to analyze because all you can think about is what if Irangunda was here to do something that the coach is telling him not to do?
Yeah.
It's astonishing. It is honestly astonishing how poorly we played. I thought it was a tough ask and an uphill battle to qualify anyway. But gee, to go out at the group stage with barely a whimper is honestly a disgrace. And what I could only the only thing I could think of afterwards was, where is the SBS The World Game episode with a angry Craig Foster to interrogate Tony Vidmar, to put the rocket up him on national TV, temporarily make him unemployable, and then he can coach Tottenham Hotspur in 16 years.
It would have been the interview that inspires him.
Exactly. And we don't have that anymore. We don't have a watchdog. We don't have an attack dog. We need some because SBS World Game, in all seriousness, at that time felt they had a duty to tell truth to power and to scrutinize everything that the governing body was doing, everything that the league was doing. And people would come on there and it was like the 7:30 report. It was like, you're getting grilled and no one does that anymore. And there's no platform for it. So I honestly think some of these youth national team jobs and across, all levels and genders and so forth are some of the least scrutinized jobs in Australian football. And a lot of them are occupied by people who I suspect wouldn't cut it, wouldn't have a hope of cutting it if they were a head coach in the A-League.
Yeah.
And then you think about where Ange came from initially when he coached under 17s and under 20s.
Yeah.
And yes, he failed it in that job, and he probably deserved the grilling that Foster gave him at the time. But he left the champions of Australian football, the back-to-back title winners who went to the Club World Cup. He left South Melbourne because it was an honor to coach a youth national team. And that doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
No,
I don't think the A-League champion head coach is going to suddenly give it all up to coach the OlyRues.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good point. And it is, the thing about it as well to me is like, this whole we don't have the cattle argument. The coach never says that before the tournament. You know, like if we don't have the cattle, that should be explained pretty good, guys. We don't have cattle. All right. You know, we've got some cattle at home, but they're not emotionally mature enough to come and be livestock in at this tournament. And basically just what happens is then as soon as you lose, you go, well, not my fault. You know, it's the quickness with which people absolve themselves from blame is ridiculous. So I don't, it just, yeah, like you say, there is no, but kind of, it is unscrutinized now. There is no place for that kind of discussion anymore. And the OlyRues and Australian football in general is poorer for it. Obviously, we won't be in Paris now, which would have been a really amazing experience. And look, one thing is if we'd gone really close to qualifying, yeah, it is difficult to qualify for an Olympics, but we didn't even get close. So I don't know. It is ridiculous. Gerardo says blaming the cattle is a comfort blanket for the thinking insecurities that go into poor management. If it's not blaming the cattle, it's complaining that they don't have a home. Yeah, I mean, maybe the cattle need, we keep saying a home. Maybe we need a farm. Maybe we need a paddock.
Right, we can blame the cattle till the cows come home, but you know, maybe they can't.
It's just yeah, I don't know. It's just depressing because this kind of roundabout of arguments that just happen constantly. And then, you know, even you hear things about, oh yeah, we should go back to Oceania. And the problem is, you know, whatever the problem is, again, it does feel like there's just, and we talked about it before, just a lack of ambition, a lack of kind of, you know, this could be better. And it should be better. And, you know, yes, Asia's improving. Why can't we also be improving? What's going on there? And then, you know, I don't know. It just does feel like a lot of people just kind of very self-interested in it. But I don't know, Joe, do you have a positive spin to put on the OlyRues? Not scoring, not winning, not qualifying to Paris? Time off?
Yeah. Sorry, my internet was cursed. Have you guys mentioned the cattle at all? I just came back.
No. Oh, no. On again. He got his one line in. The cattle. Joe's internet doesn't have the cattle. It lacks the maturity, the emotional maturity to have this discussion. Joe, what's going on? Your internet doesn't have the cattle, mate.
We start talking about curses and then I keep dropping out. What are you guys doing to me?
Good point. The MAFFS curse. I don't know. Look, if anyone has any fresh things to say about Australian youth development, that hasn't been the same things discussed for 20 years.
Sorry, Joe, we threw your modem in a river.
Yeah.
I think it's
Alex is keeping it warm.
Oh man. Nathan Jones says Joe needs a new microwave. Yeah, what's going on, Joe? Have you done the Nick DeBano trick of having your thing linked up, your internet linked up to the thing? Look, that's a bit of OlyRues discussion. What else did I want to get into this week? I don't know. Let's go through some of our comments that we got through.
Broxy. What about Broxy?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about Broxy. Yeah, so you went to the press conference.
Oh, Broxy.
Explain what happened today.
Yeah, well, Lee Broxham has called it quits after 450 plus games for Melbourne Victory. A guy who literally started as the kit man has now gone on to break all sorts of records, win 3 championships, 2 Australia Cups. Like it's an astonishing career from a guy who I think was written off multiple times in his, you know, we heard stories at the press today. It was a great press conference actually, because he's such an unassuming guy, but you know, the whole staff of Melbourne Victory came down to like clap him onto the pitch as he arrived, and you can tell how embarrassed he was about the whole thing. And he's there with his wife and his famous triplets. They were all there with him at the presser and stood with him as he fielded questions on his career. And I asked him about the time he was made to Mark Emil Heskey at Amy Park. And he said, I thought I could win headers against him. I was mistaken. And he spoke about his famous goal in the 2015 grand final, always with the self-deprecating kind of air that it's just inherent to a guy as humble as Broxy. You know, he said, I don't know what I was doing that far up the pitch, but I felt, over the moon, and for top of the world for a couple of weeks after that. And he also spoke about like the special relationship he has with a lot of Victory fans who've been members since season 1, like foundation members that he actually kind of knows personally now, and will like seek them out in the crowd after games. And the relationship he has with the South End, who, if people don't know, like Victory, they have this kind of more organized support. With the North End, they have a capo and a megaphone, and they make a lot of noise, and that's often what gets celebrated. But the South End is sort of a more ad hoc British style of active support, where it's just people start chants kind of from the back organically. It's a bit more laid back, but the substitutes tend to go and warm up in front of them. And whenever Lee Broxham is warming up, they always start the Broxy chant, Lee Broxham Ballon d'Or, as it goes. And it's all of it. His entire career is kind of in the, with an asterisk that, he wasn't the greatest or most gifted player, but you don't get to 450 games without something about you that makes every coach after coach pick you in the team. And a guy who started as a train-on player when there was no youth team, and he was literally the kit man. He was getting paid about $600 a week to work. He'd come first thing in the morning. He'd be cleaning people's boots, like literally. And Kevin Muscat had a license to kick him at training. Like he would just kick the shit out of him, just to harden him up. And so he did it the hard way. So honestly, I think Broxy's a legend of the league, and a character that should be celebrated. And he said he wants to stay in the game. Maybe coaching, maybe sort of interested in the kind of business side of football. So maybe he becomes an agent or a director of football, something like that. But he's played under so many, good coaches at Victory, Ange Postecoglou and Muskie and all these guys, and played with so many great players over the years that I think his experience should be lent on.
Joseph asks in the comments, does Brox do a send-off final set post-game? If so, what should he play? DJ
Great
Brox, what do you reckon, Joe? The final game gets on the decks?
What would you imagine that he plays? Is it a bit of cold chisel?
No, I
that's
think
the kind of vibe I'm getting.
House, isn't it? Isn't he?
I think he's a bit more EDM, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, honestly, it might happen on Monday night because that's Victory Medal night. So I
suspect with a bit of a scoop.
I suspect he might get up on the decks. I'm hoping. I've got my fingers crossed. So I'll hopefully report back.
Maybe that's.
What's interesting?
Go on.
What's interesting is you said he started as a kit man all these years. Now, has kind of had the reverse effect is Tomoki Imai. He's kind of started as a player. Slowly got a bit of a future as a man with the kits. So you can go both ways sometimes.
The duality of man. Look.
The duality of man.
I think it's a good kind of point you raised, Josh, in terms of what I really like about Brox in the A-League. There has been, and for understandable reasons, a lot of, what they call like player recycling, players jumping between 5 or 6 clubs and whatever. And it does, I think players like Brox and players who stay a very long time at one club, ideally for their whole career, ideally they make that transition, maybe not from the kit man to a 15, 16-year legend, but in terms of just at the club a long time, it does allow you to kind of, have heroes and build a relationship. And it makes, I think, the relationship between the fans and the players and the club much stronger. And, for that, I think Lee Broxham has been great from Melbourne Victory. And the amount of different positions that he's had to fill in, centre back, midfield, right back, left back, whatever he's had to do, he's done it. And I think, like you say, he's never the best player, but that's not why Victory fans love him. And I think it is really cool that, that we can celebrate players like this and that players can have these type of careers in the A-League. And I would like to see maybe a few more, players stay a really long time at their clubs to help develop that relationship. Now, it's difficult because, these players don't always earn a lot of money for their short careers. And so it can make sense that they want to, go to other clubs or overseas to chase the money. But yeah, it's it is a really cool career, and it's sad that it's come to an end, but I think he's going to be a legend. And we talk about building a statue. I think maybe the Brox statue might be.
Well, he was asked about that.
Brox.
Oh, what did he say?
He said he didn't really go in for that sort of stuff, but if they're going to build it, they can stick it right next to Slater and Munster out on the corner at Amy Park.
What would be great, because Broxham was known for his adaptability, is if there was a statue, but it changed position every home victory game. And you had to go find the Broxham statue. That's what needs to happen. Nathan Jones says, I just want Brox to go in goal to prove he can play anywhere on the park. Yeah, it's a good thing. Blake Hampton, Ryan Grant is the next Broxham. Yeah, another one, started out in the youth team, played a million different positions, has won titles for Sydney FC, are kind of real, Sydney FC fans love him. Opposition fans hate him. So I think that's really good. But it has been a really good career. And yeah, shout out to Lee Broxham. Simon Vin just says, just keep it out of the Yarra. Look, maybe make it the focal point of the Yarra. Look, the Yarra, with all the respect to you guys in Melbourne, is not the most beautiful river, and maybe it would look better with a massive Lee Broxham statue in there.
Yeah, just got to be careful of curses in that regard. But
yeah.
No, I do think Lee Broxham deserves something. Great internet lag, Joe. But
did that come in at the right time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Timing's everything in broadcast. Joe's just gonna go, we don't have the cattle.
You guys mentioned the cattle yet?
Where's the wooden spoon come from?
I can tell you one team that does have the cattle, and that's MacArthur. That's so there should be the youth development pipeline in this country.
Yeah, that's right.
Get true.
So what's just a little peek behind the curtain. I'm getting I've gotten 3 calls in the last minute from a friend of mine, and I'm thinking, oh geez, I wonder, this is, I'm trying to do a show. This must be a bit of an emergency. What's going on? Obviously, he's not one of the 15 million people tuning in. And then I'm thinking, okay, maybe someone's seriously wrong. I'm just going to text him, see if everything's all right. He's at a trivia night, and he wants to know. He's taken a
here
photo.
we go.
So maybe we can help him out. But this is one,
please.
if you're listening. It's a who am I question. The question is, I was a former New South Wales homicide detective who served in the police for over 35 years. I was portrayed in the Underbelly series by Matt Nable. I was controversially prosecuted and subsequently left the police force illegally, recording a suspect. I now have a career in the media. Who am I? I'm sure he works for Channel 7.
It's not Muskie. Yeah.
It's not Muskie. There's no such one. The answer is I have no idea without a Google. That's if anyone knows in the comments who that what. But anyway, that's the emergency.
I thought when you started this little peek behind the curtain, I was sure, maybe this is football related. Maybe we can get the audience to join in.
I wish.
A bit of football trivia. Do you know what, actually? Speaking of, I actually heard something during the week which had a bit of a link to the A-League. And they were talking about players in the English Premier League that had the most...
Sorry, I won't interrupt you. Your internet cannot handle interruptions.
Look, I don't know what's going on. They were talking about players who had the most consecutive victories in the English Premier League. And now this player had the most consecutive defeats in the English Premier League, more than any other player. Now, this player played 1 season in the A-League. Do you know who it is?
Josh, we can do this. All right.
Francis.
Maybe I'll put it. Do you guys need a little bit of trivia music? Do we have any here?
Oh, okay.
I think Brian Dean. Can we just throw out guesses?
Yeah, of course you can.
Can we get an era that they played in the Premier League? Or the
a recent era. They played 1 season in the last, I'll give you the last 5 years.
Okay. Consecutive losses. Nice. Are you thinking this is quite nice. Lee Broxham beats. Do you think, Josh, that it was Derby County? Who's someone who's had a really terrible season? That they would have had a bunch of losses, like Derby County.
Derby was the record.
The record.
I believe.
Stajovski.
Yeah. Much more recent than that.
Much more recent than that. A record amount of losses. Who absolutely stunk up the road?
I'll give you another clue because
yeah, go on.
This could take forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Help us out in the comments. He played for Melbourne Victory for 1 season.
The Aston Villa guy, the striker who couldn't score. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Ross McCormack.
Nathan's got it in the comments. Rudy gets
yeah,
dead.
Rudy gets
Rudy
dead.
just
Big Rudy.
He was horrific of a player. Look, the all-time worst A-League player in terms of the money that he came in for, the team that he came into, the excitement there, Pierre Vicari. Pierre Vicari was the worst thing I've ever seen in the A-League, and he's
You hate Peter Vicari, don't you?
I hated Pierre Vicari because the Wanderers were flying, right? And they go, we've signed this Italian striker, number 9. He's incredible. And the first game this season, he tried an overhead kick and completely missed the ball. And then, he got the shits. He wasn't playing and he was awful. And the Wanderers were doing everything right, except they didn't sign a good number 9. And Pierre Vicari, I think something like $1 million a year. He was horrific. Rudy Gestede is really close to the Pierre Vicari.
Michael Mifsud was up there, I would say. He was pretty fabulous.
But it was funny. Like it was like he was happy.
He was funny.
Therefore good.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
That's
And
the
got a lot
ethos of the show, I suppose.
we got a lot of joy out of it, right? And the thing with Misfit as well, he's playing on a terrible Heart team, right? RIP. But the thing with Pierre Vicari was he was playing on an awesome Wanderers team. That Wanderers team was packing the stadium every week. And if they'd signed that right player, they might have done something incredible, like win the Asian Champions League. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Was Rudy just dead?
Was Pierre Vicari made? Sorry, go on, Joe.
Was he the source of the curse?
Oh yeah, it was a curse to watch.
It could be.
God, his existence is a curse on football. No, it's a bit harsh.
But was Pierre Vicari extradited from the first team and made to run laps around the car park instead of training? Because that's what happened to Jonathan Brew at Melbourne Victory.
Run laps around the car park.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him on the training pitch.
Jesus,
that was how badly they wanted to get rid of him.
Well, maybe that was the Mourinho Manchester United tactic. I don't know if you saw this week, Bastian Schweinsteiger came out and revealed that he wasn't even allowed to go into the dressing room. God, football is so weird. The way, you ever think but would this be like a normal job, right? Like, so imagine, Joe, you're turning up at cheap seats, and one day they just go, "You're not even allowed to come into the office, mate. What you've got to do is you've got to go to an inferior, younger show, like a children's television show, and pretend to produce
and
segments with them."
Just cut laps around the car park.
Just a bizarre way of doing it. Hey, look, let's go to some of the comments that have come through, the mentions that have come through on our Twitter feed. Of course, people tuned in because we said that Arj Barker and the baby was going to be on the show. And Antonis Pagona says, just want to clarify that this is actually a 15+ episode, so I can blatantly disregard this information. Look, if you're a baby, you can listen to this show. Doesn't matter. It's fresh out the womb. You're allowed in the womb. You can put headphones on the pregnant belly.
It's like classical music. It's supposed to make them smarter.
Exactly, and they'll come up with random ideas.
It makes us dumber, but
put a
it's the trivia music, surely.
But look, just on that, Arj Barker. I mean, what an amazing promotion for his tour. I had no idea that he was in Australia. I mean, he just seems like he's always in Australia. It seems like he's only famous in Australia. He's not actually famous like anywhere else in the world. But incredible, the crazy publicity that this moment has got. Sometimes not being in Australia, it makes you realize how insane Australian media is. And the fact that this has got wall-to-wall coverage, and like the mum has been on TV like 15 times, something like just... Why can't the A-League get this level of publicity?
Yeah, and they asked her to move the baby to a different room because it was disrupting the interview, which I thought was deliciously ironic.
Yeah, just amazing. Nathan Jones is playing this to a baby in a womb will set up a generation of coaches in 30 years' time. 100%, Nathan, 100%. Although maybe they'll only hear the cattle part and they'll just come up they'll have some weird association with cows and football, which it should be horses and football. But yeah, just amazing the answer. But maybe that's what the A-League needs to do, is kick out any breastfeeding mothers. But breastfeeding mothers who subsequently are extremely embarrassed by it, but then want to get as much media attention as possible afterwards. Just an odd all things. And
I just can't believe that Arj Barker is still doing shows. I haven't watched that guy do comedy since Rove Live went off air.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like back in the day he was good when we couldn't really get any other international comedians to come out here, but now like we can get better than Arj Barker. With all the respect to Arj Barker, I did think it was funny that Aaron Molan had a go at him on radio for being rude as well. So Just all the celebrities getting involved. Lee Broxham Facts, who what a day for him.
Tough
says,
week, yeah.
if Craig Goodwin committed a crime, what would that crime be? An odd question, but a specific question. It has to be something to do with nailing a cross or something. Is the dead ball? Is there something in there? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going. I feel like he's a good bloke, isn't he? I feel like he'd accidentally put a cucumber in his backpack walking out of Woolies or something. He wouldn't mean it. That's the kind of bloke. I'm sorry, man.
Maybe it'll be an archery mishap because he does the big archer celebration, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's good. I don't know.
Maybe it'd be like that scene in 10 Things I Hate About You when she's accidentally shooting people because she's distracted.
If Craig Goodwin committed a crime, what would that crime be? Let us know in the comments. I don't know. I mean, he's in Saudi Arabia at the moment, so maybe
he's
like
Saudi at the moment. So
public infection, just kissing his wife probably would be enough to do it. Joseph Ciccone says, did FA make a mistake having the AFC Women's Asian Cup expression of interest period for states before the Women's World Cup? Could have leveraged the tournament success and gotten much better deals. I imagine this comes after the news that, of course, Victoria will miss out on hosting the Asian Cup. I don't know. You guys are in Victoria. What did you make of that? I think all these planning and stuff, everyone kind of gets a bit upset about it. But the reality is, I think it's kind of difficult. You've got to organize these things ahead of time. If state governments are involved, then great. If they're not, then there's not much you can do. And, you kind of just go where you can. Disappointing, obviously, for Victoria, but I'm sure they regret not expressing.
There was probably some administrative reason why it had to be first, I suspect. But in terms of the Vic government, like they do love to talk a big game about how much they're supporting football and big events. So much so that the sports minister in Victoria, Steve Dimopoulos, has started calling himself Minister for the Matildas. So this is a bit ironic. But it occurs to me that ever since ever since like we started having these big games and things, the state government, yes, they love a big ticket item, but they would rather bring like a European glamour friendly than like support Australian football specifically, which annoys me, but I can see they're also just trying to make some cash.
Yeah, well, this is why
Victoria is in a lot of debt, as you might have heard. So.
Yes, I have heard. But don't worry, Arj Barker tickets are going through the roof. So
through the roof,
the taxes that they get off that is going to save Victoria. Look, it's one of those things where this is why I want to create the MAFFS political party, and we can really influence public policy. This is it started as a podcast, but this is going to be a movement that is going to be, we're going to have a minor political party. We've heard of the Shooters and Fishers Party in New South Wales and how they seem to be able to be like a minor political player. The Shooters and Dribblers Party of Australian football is going to be the one that defines the next era of politics. Speaking of politics, Joseph Ciccone says, have the ALP, and I'm assuming he means APL, have the APL learn anything from the grand final decision when it comes to attempting to pull the wool over fans' eyes re the Dolan Warren Awards? It's insulting to fans to go through this turd polishing exercise. Just say we're broke. Yes.
The Labor Party may be involved here.
They might be broke too. Look, it's one of those ones where, look, to be honest with you, I don't really care too much about award ceremonies. I know some people said that it's our version of the Brownlow and that kind of thing. I mean, it is and it isn't, because the Brownlow, it's the count is, I think, kind of really interesting thing about the Brownlow, and we don't really get that. It's less of a television event, I think. And look, if they can't afford it, if they have to cut an awards night, to me, it's not the worst thing to cut. Like, I'd rather the money stays out on the pitch. I don't know how much money you're saving from one awards night, though, which is a little bit of a worry. But in terms of just say we're broke, hell of a statement to release. The APL have released a statement. We're broke. And I don't know. It seems like I know people say they want transparency, but that could be a hell of a.
You can't get much more transparent than that, can you?
It's hardly exactly. Jordan returning to the NBA, is it?
I'm back.
I'm broke. But look, I would say that saying you're broke tends to be bad for business. So I wouldn't really support that strategy, but I appreciate where it comes from, and that like more frankness with the fans that are following every kind of every development in this league would appreciate. But again, when you got to look at what's happened with the league in terms of global events going under, having to sign up with a more expensive production company to fulfill the games for the rest of the season and get this thing to air. I think that's a higher priority, and I think everyone's naive if they don't see the belt tightening. And we talked about it earlier in the season with the job cuts, and we had a much more serious episode there. And I don't want to return to that tone, but I think it's just unrealistic to not expect. The messaging from the APL is that we're focusing on football. What that means is we're cutting everything that we can that's not football, or is kind of peripheral. And maybe the Wars night was seen as an easy savings to make up the shortfall. So I'm not hugely fussed about it, or I'm not hugely surprised about it, to be honest. I think we love to rail against these things, but I don't remember the last time I tuned into a Dolan Warren broadcast, to be honest. It's nice if you go, but is it that much of an event for the fans? We're still going to give out the award,
Yeah, no, I mean, look, again, ideally we'd have a great event, end of season event, and it'd be great, and everyone would go, and it'd be a big deal, and it would be a big broadcast, and there would be debating who's going to win the award, and that, but it just never really felt like it's ever captured.
And we'd have the violinist playing our countdown 30-second music in the lead up to the announcement of the winner.
MC Arj Barker kicking out any breastfeeding mothers as well, so we go viral.
DJ Brox.
I think we're actually playing an amazing event.
We're fully staffed.
Yeah. Sideline reporters.
I retract everything I just said. This is a travesty. We need to plan it.
Am I on the merch desk?
Yes, I was going to say.
We're fully staffed.
I know, we did start this thing by going, sometimes you got to cut things, and then we've just come up with so many good ideas. So, look, if there's a little bit of cash around APL, just get us involved. Look, here's another one that's come through. Harley Reid, the West Coast AFL player that we like to talk about. Apparently he did it, I'm just quoting verbatim, with a little drive-by on Dockers legend David Mundy after Dave only gave him one vote for the Glendelling Allen Medal, which I guess is the Dolan Morrill Medal of AFL.
It's the man of the match medal for the Western Derby between Fremantle and West Coast.
Well, whatever. Anyway, Oscar asked the really good question. Is Harley Reid the Iran Kunda of AFL? And if so, does he need to mature more before his inevitable move to Europe? Joe, what do you reckon?
Look, Charlie Reid. He's the golden boy. I don't think he can do no wrong. I don't think there's any team that wouldn't select him at the moment. So he's got a bit of the opposite of Iran Kunda at the moment. Although I haven't seen his parking, so there may be room for improvement.
There you go. I mean, look, maybe can he organize an awards ceremony? Maybe we can get into that.
If the space isn't big enough, he'll just hold out one hand, push the car out of the way, hold out the other hand out the other window, push the other car, and then
Is that what he's known for? Palming people off?
He will. He'll break a tackle, mate. He'll give you the big don't argue. He's like a Dusty reincarnate.
Okay. Someone say he's kind of like the Lee Broxham of AFL.
Some might say that. Yeah.
I would say the guy he was having a swing at is the Lee Broxham of the AFL. David, is it Mundy?
That's David Mundy. Yeah,
Mundy. Yeah, he played a million games, so he's probably more
one club player as well. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I was when Freo were out here for a final, they trained at a really rinky-dink oval in Port Melbourne for some reason, and I remember filming that training session. And they warmed up with a soccer ball, and Mundy wasn't too bad. They were doing a bit of juggling. He was actually all right.
I've never understood was AFL, right? So you know when there's like a ball up, or is it a ball up when they throw the ball in the air? Right. So when they do that near the goal, and it gets tapped down. And then it gets tapped down the player, and the player tries to catch it and then like kick it on the run, right? I mean, just volley it first time, Zinedine Zidane, Real Madrid style, right? This waste your time trying to catch it. Like sometimes I feel like, I feel like a lot of times we come up with amazing ideas and too much use of the hands in AFL. All right, there's way too much catching. Just volleys. Just keep on hitting him. Kacharski style in the Sydney FC Derby. In the Sydney Derby. Jesus. Aaron asks, is it just perhaps that we don't have the cattle for an awards night? Yes, good. Bring it full circle. Yes, we don't have the emotional maturity. That's what they should have said. Australian awards nights. So we need to develop our youth awards nights better before we can produce record awards nights. Look, I think we're going to leave it there, mainly because Joe's internet is frozen. Josh is, we can only pay him for so much to come on this show once every 5 weeks. But Josh, it has been an absolute pleasure. Any final words for the audience?
Tune into Port Melbourne versus South Melbourne at 5 p.m. on Saturday.
Good plug.
There's a player in that Port Melbourne team who is so much fun, and he's also his coach's hairdresser. Emmanuel Peters is his coach's barber. We've talked a bit about it on the NPL Victoria podcast. Another sneaky plug. So he has to pick him every week, because if he doesn't, Nick Marinos is going to come to the next training session with his shit messed up. His fade's going to be all over the shop. So Manny Peters, next big thing.
Joe, before I say goodbye to you, we just check that your internet connection is stable enough to say goodbye. Andy Nguyen has come through and he says, a cool channel. Yes. And just so you know that he's not a bot, he's also come with some excellent comments such as AFL, NRL, NBL.
Pump up that SEO, Andy. Thanks for that.
And then Andy's also gone Aussie Oi.
Aussie Oi.
Get in.
You know what? Sometimes we're worried about, can bots replace us as media workers? They're still a little bit off. Joe, I want to say goodbye because your internet is having an absolute Barry Crocker. But it's been a pleasure having you on for, I think, a cumulative 20 minutes.
It's been good. Have we spoken about chain nets while I was gone? Have we covered it all?
No, Joe, you wouldn't believe it. People keep asking, do we have the cattle?
Do we have the cattle? Wow, don't get me started with the cattle. No, it's been a pleasure. It's been good. I feel like this is one of those shows where the comments really help us, in a bit of a week that you said was slim pick and Stoll. We love your comments getting involved so we can feed off that.
Mate, the comments are they're the playmakers, all right? They're just setting us up opportunities. We're just like number 9s. We're McLaren or Taggart or something. But we need the number 10, Arslan just feeding us balls over the top. John says, is MAFFS preparing for an awards night? This is what I'd like to see. So in the future, what we should do is we'll have our own awards night. So we'll have the most MAFFS player of the season, MAFFS team of the season, MAFFS coach of the season, all this kind of stuff. Well, MAFFS young player, MAFFS moment, that kind of, maybe we'll wear ties or something like that to really.
Yeah, we should all wear those tuxedo t-shirts.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Or we just, we could fake it with a green screen or something. Because actually I don't have any of those things, but maybe I can go buy it.
Wasn't there a team in Spain that had a tuxedo home kit? Surely you could just source one of those.
I think
they were third division team or something.
That's good.
There was a team in Spain that was rebranded to Flat Earth.
Hey, back to Port Melbourne, mate. There's a former Flat Earth FC player at Port Melbourne who I'm commentating this weekend. McCare.
Ooh,
so nice they named him twice.
The MAFFSies. I quite like the MAFFS.
The MAFFS. It has to be the MAFFSies.
Look, John, I think once again, we like to start the ideas, but it's really you guys in the comments that come up with the brilliant ideas. And the MAFFSies, it's coming to you soon. We don't know when. We'll organize it, but we'll put out, I don't know, a list of nominees and stuff. People can vote. People can get involved. And we'll get, DJ Brox to do a set live, Arch Barker to host, and, everything else is involved.
We'll have an exhibition game between Flat Earth FC and FC Galileo.
Yeah, and we'll see
the derby.
The derby, the ultimate derby, and we'll also see if the Victorian government wants to host it. Maybe
I think they'll be all over it, mate.
Maybe they'll say we're broke. The Victorian government releases a statement saying we're broke, and then the APL releases a statement that will say us too, and then Football Australia releases a statement saying, well, we don't have any cattle, so sorry. That'll be it. Look, guys, it's been a pleasure. I hope Australian football is fun for you this week. Make it as fun as possible. Enjoy it as much as possible. Have a good week. We'll see you next week, maybe for the MAFFSies.